Hello and welcome to the Holo Herald podcast. Today we are streaming live to YouTube, and we got some viewers out there. We got some people watching. Welcome to the stream. And if you're joining us from the not live version, welcome to the podcast. Today we have a little bit more of an intimate podcast for you guys. I'm just joined by my good friend
Paul. I'm back again this week, and even though it's just going to be Eric and I, we have some very interesting things to talk about, so we should have some good discussions, and we'd love to hear from anyone who's live about what they think about our topics, or if they want to hear our thoughts on something they saw in the news, or just a topic they want to discuss in general. We'd love to hear it. So I'm really excited for today's podcast, and let's get into it.
So yeah, we do actually have quite a few interesting topics, but we'll just probably start off just ranting a little bit to begin with. First off, I just want to go over some of the April Fool's jokes that you guys saw. Like, if you guys saw any of the cool tech Google or April Fool's jokes, go ahead and tell them to us. Maybe we haven't seen them yet, but let's talk about the Google one. What was the big Google one, Paul?
The Google Gnome, which was a pretty hilarious little gadget they came out with. So if you want to explain that, Eric.
Yeah, so I saw this, and I actually really wanted it. It's the Google Home, but with dressed up like a gnome, and you're supposed to use it in your yard and stuff. Go ahead, and you guys can just Google Gnome. And it's funny, when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be a like a new OS or something like that, Google Gnome or something like that. But no, turns out it's a really funny ad too. It really got me for a second because the production quality was phenomenal. It was like they actually got it was like an actual Google commercial. They had the Google logos, they had everything. I was totally fooled until it started sassing back. What'd you think about it, Paul?
Yeah, I thought everything about it, they obviously put a little bit of capital into it, so I thought it was pretty funny, and honestly, if it wasn't on April Fool's Day, definitely would have seemed a little legit, and it would just been Google's high.
I actually wanted one.
Yeah, I wanted one too, but when first seeing the Google Gnome name, yeah, I also thought are they gonna change Chrome into Google Gnome or some crap like that?
That's what I thought too.
They do love those names that just kind of rhyme together. So I thought it was a very interesting thing. I don't know if I could see myself getting something like that just for the usefulness, but it's cool.
What's funny though is it seems with consumers that we if that just came out on any regular day, I would have been like, wow, they are crazy, that is stupid, that'll never sell, you know what I mean? But now the fact that I can't have it, I want it, I think that's hilarious. And that's how it is with all these jokes. I feel like a lot of these jokes start up as random ideas or joke ideas or anything like that, and they actually end up being real freaking products or real ideas, or Kickstarters or whatever it happens to be. What was the other one you were telling me about? You mentioned one that was pretty funny. It was Zombie Project or something like that.
The Totally Accurate Battle Simulator.
Yeah.
Came out with a totally accurate it's I forget the full name, but it's Tab Z, and it's pretty hilarious. So they make a game which is a battle simulator, and it's very poorly animated right now, but I can see a future in it. It's more about the software that it uses, and it does these massive large-scale battles on accurately, and they made a DayZ clone out of it, and people were actually this is a really good game, and it's it was really well built out and well fleshed out, so people were this is actually something we'd want standalone. So I just thought it was kind of funny how sometimes these jokes turn into things that are this was actually a good idea that people would play, because I heard quite a lot of people played this game a lot on April Fool's Day. So
exactly, and some of the jokes are a little bit too creative for their own good. They're a little bit too good, and it almost is bleeds the fake news line. I know there's a lot of buzzwords and stuff about fake news right now, but it kind of almost bleeds into fake news stuff where it's okay, for instance, there's one that Paul, if you want to link it from the Slack, talks about Google's DeepMind project and stuff like that. And this guy was saying he got this exclusive interview with Google's DeepMind, and that they did a complete breakthrough overnight. It was like overnight they saw something totally crazy. It was they've unlocked artificial intelligence. But the article, if you guys go ahead and you check a second to look at it, it's by approximatelycorrect.com. And the article is written really, really well. Like it uses a lot of technical jargon. Like it uses like a lot of big names in the actual industries and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's very interesting. But and the way they write it is like, oh, that makes sense. That's all AI needed to just like become human-like, you know? And they even link to some sources and stuff. And it's very tricky. And I believed it until I went down into the comments. They were like, this is an April Fool's joke. This is an April Fool's joke. Because I only got this today. So it's been 2 days since that. So I wasn't even in that zone anymore. But still, did you read that article?
Yeah, I did. Extremely well written. Like, they use some really big words that are obviously probably completely just like the guy went into a dictionary, like his computer engineering dictionary was just like, yep, these words all together, and I'm going to make an acronym out of them. And that's kind of what he did. I thought it was pretty hilarious, though, how the thing that set it off for me was when they said a representative of the People for Ethical Treatment of Reinforcement Learners contacted them. It was like, it sounds like the AI is trying to say, help me, and you need to treat it better.
So yeah, in the article, they say they broke through AI and they started talking with it. And the first thing the AI said was, help me, without an H. He said, help me without an H. And they're like, oh, maybe he started a mini company already. And they said, yelp me. You know, at the time, now that I look back at it, and I think, oh man, I'm such an idiot. But when you read it, it's like, it seems very real. Dude, so I have a question though. Is that people for ethical treatment of algorithms, is that real or is that fake? Because if you go to that website, it's really well made. And they have like a blog and they have a bunch of other stuff. Is that a real thing?
I feel like it should be real. I feel like there's people out there who are definitely... I'm looking at their website right now. I think... Ooh.
Okay, so what you got? So if you guys don't know what this is, if you guys are just listening, you could either go and Google People for Ethical Treatment of Algorithms, or petrol.org, petrl.org, or we can just tell you what it is. It's promoting moral consideration for algorithms. So I discussed this with a coworker today, and we kind of went back and forth, and it's an interesting concept to get into, is like, do these algorithms have rights, you know, or since they're like human-like, do they have rights? But basically, they talk about it, and the site looks really legit. Dude, the site looks really freaking legit. They have like this huge FAQ. It's a big write-up about it. They have a Twitter. They have an RSS feed.
Their FAQ is actually pretty funny.
What did you say, Paul?
Their FAQ is actually pretty funny. One of the questions is, what are the main challenges facing us? 1, we do not yet know how to measure the suffering of algorithms. We do not know whether we should care about the happiness or the pleasure of agents, and we have some evidence that these are different quantities. So, I don't know if this is legitimate because so we do not know what kinds of algorithm actually experience suffering or pleasure. In order to concretely answer this question, we would need to fully understand consciousness, a notoriously difficult task. And so I don't know if this is real.
Hacker News tweeted out their site. So I mean, what is this? Comments? I mean, they have freaking Hacker News. So, I mean, their Twitter is just random stuff. One of our co-founders...
I think this might be real.
It's real. It's real. They have co-founders. They have founders. They've been around since 2015. How... Yep. You know, this seems stupid now. This is one of those things that we make fun of now. We're going to be the idiots that they're going to, like, super cut to back in the day. Like, there's the video of, like, these footballs... They're at a football or a baseball game, and there's the announcers, and they're talking, and they go... Yeah, you guys can go ahead and go to this. You can go to this website and pick up a .com, and you can buy your .com. And he looks over to the other guy and he goes, "What's a .com?" And the other guy's like, "Oh, something stupid. It'll never catch on. .com. I don't even know what a .com is." And they're like making fun of it. That's gonna be us. Like these guys, we're making fun of them now, but they're totally gonna be like visionaries in the future.
Yeah, actually, he had a interview with Vox, which, yeah, back in 2014, one of the founders, and he was saying that killing video game characters is immoral. So it's definitely a legitimate thing. So these guys will be an interesting group to keep an eye on in the future.
Wait, what was this quote? Killing video game characters is immoral?
Yes.
Interesting. Oh,
he says, we can still think of simple video game characters as having preferences for the world to be one way over another. So that's kind of interesting. So, like, they're claiming that they're capable of thought in terms of, like, they have preferences. And when we control them, we don't, like, take into account their preferences. So,
they have some interesting... They have some interesting ideology here. It's like, how do we measure the suffering of algorithms? And they said, we do not know whether we should care about the happiness or the pleasure of the agents. And we have some evidence that these are different quantities. And then it's like, how do we know if they're suffering? Well, it's like, well, we have to ask them. Well, it's like, what if someone didn't tell them what suffering is? Then are they really suffering? I don't know. It's really interesting. I don't know. It says, what kind of things are reinforcement learners? You, me, your mom, your neighbor's cat, cows, and some elevator control programs. So apparently an elevator control program is a reinforcement learner.
So we should take into account what makes it happy, and we're unethical if we don't.
He starts a union. All the elevators get together and start a union, and it's like, sorry, the elevators are on strike today kind of thing.
Imagine a future like that with automation where robots, we've had, like, a group like this has actually, like, lobbied for them to be programmed in to have feelings like that in terms of, like, I'm not happy today, so I'm not going to work. Yeah.
Interesting. So is it like our obligation, like if we make them super intelligent, do we also like have to give them emotion, or are they just like, they're just serving a purpose, so we have to do? So what I think is kind of a more like realistic approach to put this into is how easily it is for things to get humanized. It's an algorithm. It's literally math. It's literally a math equation. Basically is what it boils down to, is a math equation. And we've humanized a math equation. Whether you agree with that or whether you don't agree with that is up to you. But it's just interesting to see how fast we humanize these things. I mean, you do it as a kid. You pick up a doll or you pick up a stick, and two sticks together looks like a person, and all of a sudden it's humanized. Or what's really interesting is with Amazon Echo and Google Home, I notice they've been, well, first off, they've started programming like emotion and stuff into them subliminally, so you don't notice it. But what's interesting is, like, if you say something wrong, people say sorry to Google Home. Like my parents, if they say something to it, they'll be like, "Oh, sorry," And it's like you're saying that to a robot, but you talk to it, it talks back to you. Is it a human? What is it at that point, Paul? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about I have an Echo sitting right here, and usually I'm pretty cordial with it. I say like please for every action and stuff. I don't like yell at it. I don't think I've ever said like sorry to it.
But please, you still say please. It's like
I treat it like a person. Yeah.
But it's literally just it's a cube. It's a cube connected to the internet, and it's basically like if you said every time you made a Google search, you said please at the end of your Google search, But the fact that we're talking to it and the fact that it talked back, it humanizes it so much. And it's really interesting to think about the future of robots and to think how quickly they'll be humanized. I mean, look, we already have just for algorithms, people are trying to create companies to defend them. And I know this is theoretical, very theoretical still, but I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we should give rights to algorithms, or what do you think?
Yeah, all algorithms matter. I definitely think that algorithms have rights. In terms of just like, if we're gonna give them that much intelligence in order to like plan out daily lives. Like, imagine how good the Google Assistant and Alexa will be in the future. Because right now, with everything people say to them, they're still learning, and they're just getting smarter and smarter every time they're used. So the fact that one day they'll be like managing our entire houses, our entire lives, so they'll know when are our normal times to go to bed, and it will be like, do you want to turn off the lights? Or if you left the house and you didn't lock the doors, it can automatically lock the doors behind you, stuff like that. So I think I just wonder how much you'd have to give to it, though. Like, how would you? It's so weird to think about, like, being like, oh yeah, this equation has feelings and it has things that make it happy.
It understands
I
me,
know.
you know.
Yeah.
It has the complexity to understand you. So there's an interesting article. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I don't think I have. I'm interested in artificial intelligence, obviously, but I'm also interested in computer learning and algorithmic learning and such. And so I was looking at some of the early stuff, and this stuff's been around forever, but we've really kind of seen it take the forefront in probably the past 4 years. And I was looking at like how to teach a computer to talk. Like if we wanted to teach it to just learn a word, you know, how long it would take to teach itself, and what we'd have to give it, and all these things, you know. But in layman's terms, not like Watson or Google stuff. I just wanted like really simple layman's terms, you know, a guy in his basement hacking away, just creating something, you know. And I got onto this one guy, and he said he was teaching his computer, and it took it like a couple hours to learn how to say hello or something like that, which is really impressive when you think about it and you get into it. And this is just simple like trial and error and stuff. But this led to an article about how Google is subliminally like programming emotion into their into Google Home, and even stuff as simple as like, so when you ask her what the weather is, and it's rainy, and maybe she knows you don't like rain somehow. Maybe you just been like, maybe she heard you say "oh darn" after you said it was rainy, or maybe statistically people just don't like rainy days, and so she says it with a little bit of a different tone, or uses a little bit of a sentence structure to word it better, so it seems a little bit happier. Instead of like, it's gonna rain and be shitty today, she's like, it's gonna rain, but tomorrow it's gonna be better, or something like that, you know, like just those two ways, instead of saying looking like clouds and rain today, but or it's gonna rain today, but tomorrow it's gonna be better. You know, that's like very humanistic to say it like that, but it's something very subliminal. But at the same time, it makes you breaks that reality check right there. You know what I mean? It breaks that uncanny level. What do you think about that? Have you noticed any stuff like that, or?
Not really. But now that you have me thinking about it, I think it would be interesting, like, to make a robot into like a pessimist or an optimist, or just like a realist, like, oh, it's raining today, but that's good because tomorrow like the plants will be green, stuff like that. So, or that's just really interesting to me, to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, or like to make it a user preference, like, so you could be like
a cup half full, cup half empty kind of person, like you take a little like quiz.
I want my Echo to be pessimistic, just like me. So if it's raining, oh, it's gonna rain forever. Or
exactly.
Or like if you have like a person, like, I know this is going like way in the future and we're pretty far away from this, but like you have a personal assistant type of robot that actually like does stuff for you around your house, like cleans for you and stuff, and you're just like, oh, I had a bad day at work, and it's like, well, it can only get worse, or it can only get better, kind of stuff.
Or he's just like, stop complaining, you know?
Yeah.
Just doesn't even care.
Yeah.
Or you could program it to be like super caring, and it like walks over and like holds you, just like, are you okay? It's really interesting. But I mean, these are the stepping stones that technology is founded on, you know. This is where we start to see that kind of stuff fleshed out. Speaking of a pessimistic artificial intelligence, remember like Google, or I mean, who was it? Some company released their artificial intelligence, and it was going to learn via Twitter. It was going to like peruse a bunch of Twitter, and it was going to learn from what people said to it and what other people were saying around Twitter and stuff like that. And that's how it was going to be. And within with less than 24 hours, it was like super racist and super mean. And it was like tweeting really rude things to people and stuff. And they had to shut it down and like delete all the tweets and stuff. Did you hear about that?
Oh yeah, it was Microsoft's AI.
Okay, yeah,
Tay.
yeah.
Yeah, they had to mute it because it was. It says immediately learnt how to be racist and profane. Like, dude, at one point it declared Hitler did nothing wrong. By the way, we should probably cut that out of the final cut of this because we don't want to get monetization pulled. But
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's another topic we'll get into after this.
But yeah, that is one of the dangers. Like when you choose where your AI is going to learn at, how do you make sure that it doesn't learn profanity and it doesn't learn to be racist? Or for certain people, maybe it learns to be racist because that makes them happier. Like, is a company really going to do that? It'll be interesting to see in the future.
Or is it, like, what's the ethical rights of that? Should it, like, take in everybody's views? Because, I mean, Twitter's an open platform. I mean, if that's the views, it might have just latched on that one time it was learning, or maybe next time it'll be, like, super liberal, or sometimes it'll be super, I don't know. It's really interesting. Or you think over time, maybe it'll kind of develop, like, an otherworldly sense where it'll just, like, understand everybody's views, and from a numbers point of view, because there's no right and wrong to a computer. Well, at least yet there's no right and wrong.
So it will just be like the ultimate PC robot.
It's just like, no, it should get super triggered super easily. So back to, I'll take a couple steps back. What are the other ways that they were like subliminally like teaching teach using emotional artificial intelligence, which I actually found which was a really useful way of doing this, is so when you go to a command and she doesn't understand you, at least with Google Home, when she doesn't understand you, she says, "Sorry, I don't know how to do that yet." But back in the day when Google Home first came out and stuff, she would just say, "Please repeat command," or "Please repeat command." So what's like more humanistic, or what's more emotional? Like if you say, "Play Bob Marley," and it's like playing Cobb Darley or something like that, and you're like, no, stop. And what if she said sorry, or she apologized instead of like repeat command, repeat command, repeat command? Just like these little things where they say, "Sorry, can you repeat that?" Or "Sorry, I didn't get that right. What was it again?" Or different, just like little ways of phrasing this, a little bit psychology that completely humanizes this robot. It's very interesting. How does Alexa do it?
She says, "Sorry, I don't know what's wrong," or I don't recognize that command. Can you repeat it? And like, obviously, if it's one that she doesn't know, she's just gonna keep saying that. So I think it's kind of cool that Google says, "Sorry, I can't do that yet." It makes it a lot less infuriating, and yeah, it really humanizes a lot the fact that it like knows that it did something wrong, or not wrong, but it can't help you with whatever task you're asking of it,
and it feels bad about it. It's kind of weird. Like it doesn't really, obviously, it doesn't, but just like the fact that it's portraying that it feels bad, very interesting. Very interesting. So you mentioned copyright. I'm not even watching the freaking stream. Okay. Well, we got 6 people here. There's a lot of people here. Welcome to the stream. If you're just joining us, go ahead and leave us some comments if you guys are curious about anything, or shoot us some cool links, or ask us any questions. Or we normally talk about, if you guys are new, we normally talk about mixed reality content or all different types of technology. But if you specifically have any HoloLens questions or anything like that, that's ones we can really get into. But let's just kind of go into a hotbed topic right now. What were you said? You said, "Oh yeah, we can't talk about the man with no name, or else we'll get demonetized." We don't make much monetization anyway, so we could probably say it. We can't talk about Hitler or anything like that. What? Give us a little bit of an update. What's been going on?
So basically, what's happened is, YouTube or Google was putting advertisements on like Islamic extremist videos and things that their advertising partners, so the companies that are actually paying for the ads and allowing all of this to work for free, they were pretty angry that their ads were being featured next to extremist videos or videos that didn't represent their company's views, because obviously that does affect their company's image. If you go to a video and see, like, if you're going to, I don't know why you would, but if you're going to like an Islamic extremist video of someone getting beheaded, Microsoft doesn't want a HoloLens ad to be the first thing you see before you see that, because it seems like Microsoft is advocating the Islamic State.
And And advertising is just conditioning. They're just conditioning you to want this product, and they're just conditioning you to want it. And if they're conditioning you alongside of, something you don't like or something inappropriate, that just ruins the whole point of the concept. Continue on.
So basically what YouTube's solution was to do is pull monetization from a bunch of videos that had relatively offensive words in it, such as like Hitler, the Holocaust, things like that. Things where...
Even swear words?
Yeah. Videos where someone would deem it to be not ad-friendly anymore. And so YouTube really... how would you say it? Like strengthened their approach to it, and
stance.
Yeah, became much more strict in the sense of if you have something offensive in your video, we're gonna pull it. So my biggest question when I first saw that was, so how does this affect people who do historical stuff? So what if someone's put a documentary of like on Hitler's life up on YouTube where it's very historical and not trying to advocate for anything that Hitler did or anything like that. So I wonder if people who ran those videos have suffered because of this. But I know a lot of big YouTubers have suffered because of it. And I think it's a very interesting thing to talk about, saying is like, how far do we go with the censorship? Do we go to where your videos have to have nothing that is offensive, or can it be something that's offensive but it's in like a joking manner? So, or like if it's just a video game and Hitler's in it, where do you draw the line? If you're YouTube right now, where do you draw the line, Eric?
Well, I guess I'll answer that. It's going to be a really roundabout way that I'm going to answer that. So if you guys are curious, a really good in-depth talk about this is Philip DeFranco has, if you just go to his channel and watch some of his stuff he's done about it, he's super in the know-how. And basically, if you're watching us now, you probably understand what's going on, at least to some extent, but there's some good write-ups for it. So back to your original question is, where do I draw the line? Well, I think I've heard a lot of different opinions about this. And I think the biggest problem is that YouTube got pushed into a corner because there's really no right or wrong thing for YouTube to do. They lost some insane amount of money for advertisers, like close to billions. I think it was billions and billions of dollars, or like, I don't know. Maybe you could Google how much money they lost real quick while I'm talking about this.
Yeah. They
lost some insane amount of money from this. And at that point, it's like, well, we got to fix this or else, the platform is going to get really hurt, But what we talk about this a lot on the podcast, being reactionary versus being proactionary. I don't know a word for that,
Proactive.
Being proactive versus reactionary. And I think what YouTube has done is very reactionary. And I think that whenever something's done reactionary, it never ends well. And, they didn't put any of these stuff in place beforehand, even though I don't think they should or it's necessary. They didn't put these avenues or these things in place beforehand to stop this from happening. And so when it does happen, it happens at a huge level and is very catastrophic. And they have to be reactionary, which sucks because it's never good position to be in. They, if this was just a little bit like, one person pulled their ads, it's like, okay, we fix it, blah, 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 we move on, if they built up the system to it. But instead, they have to pull monetization. I mean, this is interesting because normally from YouTube, it's not just, even if you're politically incorrect, but you're still a big hitter, someone like PewDiePie, H3, Jenna Marbles is even a little bit politically incorrect sometimes, but they have millions and millions of subscribers. They don't ever see any hit. But even those huge YouTubers are seeing massive hits in revenue and subscribers and different stuff, It's really interesting to look at and see how much power YouTube has over these algorithms and stuff like that. And apparently they fixed all the reappeals process and stuff like that, which I think is bullcrap. But I think YouTube's getting dangerously out of touch with their user and their advertiser base. And I think they've just kind of gone into their like little safe haven of we have a shit ton of money and people love us and, and that. But basically, to answer your question, going back to the beginning, is I don't think there should be any censorship in any form. Just like, monetization, if you're just there's obviously terms of service, and if you break those terms of service, you don't get monetized. I don't really like this big like perma ban without updating the terms of service or without letting anybody know or without doing anything like that. But it's their company; they can do what they want. And that's totally fair. But they should at least let the users know, or the creators, the audiences know. Go ahead.
So I just looked it up, and the boycott that's currently happening will cost Google $750 million. So that's a pretty hefty sum of money. So I think this really shows who really owns YouTube, and it's the advertisers. Because without the advertisers, I don't know if YouTube would have gotten as big as it is today, in terms of like the big YouTubers you have. I'm sure they'd still have a bunch of subscribers and things like that, but there'd be no incentive for them to go out and do it every day. So I think it's interesting that YouTube would move ahead and instead of talking, like having a dialogue with their creators, the people who allow the advertisers to, like, who gave the advertisers a reason to get on, it's kind of a weird relationship in the fact that the advertisers rely on content creators, but the content creators rely on advertisers. So I think there should have been more of a dialogue before a move like this was made, and I think it is more on Google than on anyone else to take care of the problem. In terms of you can set the filters stricter. Maybe you have a better way of vetting your videos before they go up. I know they do their best to take down extremist content.
They do a really good job. They do a pretty good job. I mean, you have to actually search. Like, if you're good, you don't just stumble upon ISIS videos or white supremacy videos. It just you don't just stumble upon them. You have to go searching for them. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
So I just think they need to do a better job of, if your channel has a history of videos like that, not allowing you to monetize videos in the first place. And also, I don't really know. I just think a dialogue would have been the best approach here, rather than this extreme, just like, all right, we're going to pull the monetization right now. Like you said, it was a reaction, and of course they need to end this boycott as quickly as possible. Like, yeah, they have money to survive, but YouTube is not Google's main profit stream. So it'll be interesting to see how Google says when are they going to cut their losses on something like this. Like, how are they going to get these advertisers back, and really see how far Google's willing to go to protect this YouTube sphere in terms of their revenue, because it's definitely not a major part of their revenue. Like, $750 million is a lot, but
oh no, it's nothing. It's nothing. I mean, they want to nip it at the bud before it becomes something crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I just think it'll be interesting to see how quickly Google itself steps in, because right now I believe this is just YouTube and their executives taking care of all the problems. But if the losses continue to pile up, it'll be very, very interesting. And I'm sure the advertisers will come back. This is one of the largest websites in the world.
And it's so just what kind of helps put the problem into perspective is like, I'll read off some YouTube stats. I found some. There's you guys can just Google 160 amazing YouTube stats and stuff like that, and I'll read off some of them. So, how many people in the U.S. use YouTube? Over 180 million people use YouTube in the U.S. That's insane. Amount of content YouTubers watch annually: 46,000 years of content are watched annually on YouTube. Average time spent on YouTube is about 40 minutes. Hours of video watched per month on YouTube is about 6 billion hours of YouTube. That is insane. That is so much. Estimated amount of new videos uploaded to YouTube every minute. There's over 300 hours of content uploaded every minute on YouTube. So you got to think that over 300 hours of content uploaded every minute on YouTube, that some stuff's going to slip by. That's just a granted. And I think it's a testament to YouTube already to show how much they've already done. I mean, how much they already filter and how much, they do pretty good. Because that's insane, dude. Can you imagine 300 hours every minute? By the time I'm even done ranting, over 600 hours of content will have been uploaded to YouTube. I mean, what do you think about that?
That's absolutely insane. And I think this might be one of the major areas where Google is working for a better AI. tying it all together here, because imagine how quickly an AI could filter all those videos and be like offensive, 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 not eligible for monetization, eligible for monetization, stuff like that. Because I don't think YouTube should be censoring the community, and the fact that, yeah, they should let people who may have unpopular views make content on their service. They can choose to let those people monetize those videos, and I think this is a perfect job for an AI to do, in the fact that you just program in what kinds of keywords you're looking for and in the videos, and seeing how quickly it can move through all of that that many hours of videos incredibly quickly. So
I guess the question comes into play too is who. I guess it's YouTube's company, so they should be able to obviously make the AI and decide where the AI learns and what it deems is not. But at the same time, it's I guess it could be a user thing. Because we have seen it in YouTube. It's YouTube's, sadly, the more mainstream YouTube becomes, the more politically correct and the more rules they have to follow and the stricter everything gets. It's just a part of, being big and having to deal with corporates and having to deal with advertisers and stuff like that. I mean, if we just watch YouTube Rewind from 2016, half of the YouTubers that grew the most in 2016 weren't even on there because they were considered not advertiser friendly or not politically correct. It was kind of the doll faces of YouTube. It was kind of the Kardashians of YouTube, or I don't know. They're not drama people, but I mean, you've noticed it, haven't you?
Yeah, it's definitely gotten you see a lot of the big channel, the recommended channels are always family friendly stuff and things like that, and really
you never see Filthy Frank.
A lot of small. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. You're saying exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you see a lot of these smaller YouTubers not get the attention they deserve. They're harder to find now because YouTube has already vetted these people, these big YouTubers, and they know they're not going to say anything bad that will hurt our advertisers' image, things like that. So I think that's one of the things we're seeing with all this. Just as YouTube is more widely used, they have to make sure they're not offending so many people, because the entire site relies on people coming and watching videos and coming and making videos. And I think they have to balance that. And this is a very public example of them trying to balance that, and it'll be interesting to see what they come up with in the future in order to mitigate these problems, because the problem's going to continue. That was definitely a reactive measure, and I don't know if they have a proactive solution yet, or else the boycott would have ended by now, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it definitely would have if they came out and said, okay, this is a problem, but here's how we're going to fix it. Because, I mean, these companies want this ad revenue. I mean, they're not going to miss out on 6 billion people watching, or what? I'm not 6 billion people watching, but whatever I said. Hours of video watched per month. They're not going to miss out on those 6 billion hours of content watched. There's no way as an advertiser. And that was in 2014 too. That's probably shot up since then. It's been 3 years since that stat was updated. So it's probably astronomically bigger than that. But and some interesting things I heard about this were that they said this wouldn't have been such a big deal, but they say a lot of people are rumoring that big companies like ESPN, I'm not gonna say anybody specifically, but bigger companies, Wall Street Journal or news companies, traditional entertainment companies have been pushing this bigger to try to kill it, or I don't know, a last left hook, to YouTube. The reason this seems like such a big deal, and the reason it's grown out of Google's and YouTube's hands so fast, is that companies have been pushing it so big and pushing the stories and pressuring the companies to get out of it. Traditional entertainment companies and old timers like ESPN or Fox News or whoever. Basically any traditional company, this is their last left hook before they get knocked out or whatever, What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree, because as we can see, those companies are increasingly fading into irrelevance in the fact that we have ways to get news such as Twitter. YouTube is a great place where people, for like tenths of the cost can make the same news stories that these major news networks can make. Obviously, those news networks have become a little more prevalent now because they've made this push, like, oh, because Trump's president, it's more important than ever than that we do our jobs and stuff like that. I just think it's important, like, there's just these sources, like these smaller news sources, where it costs much, much less. Like, you don't have to have this huge staff supporting you. Like, if you have a phone and a Twitter account, you're a news source. You just have to make yourself in those locations. So you just have to hang out around Capitol Hill, and you can get political news, like, all day long, just sitting there, and going to hearings, committee hearings, and things like that, which we're all allowed to go to. There's nothing that makes the press more, like, there's nothing that makes the press better than your average citizen nowadays, because it used to be like, yeah, we can all go to congressional hearings, but the press is the only people who had the infrastructure to have a voice about what was going on.
Or
but
sports
now,
news or anything, or any type of news.
Yeah, any type of event. Now, though, with the internet, smartphones, you can, and Twitter and things like that, you can see people going out and making their own stories, scooping their own stories, and I think this is just all a major push by, like, traditional media, trying to stay relevant, you know?
Yeah, so not just news sources too. On the other side of it, like entertainment stuff, like we like Rooster Teeth a lot, and I watch more Rooster Teeth than I watch any other entertainment TV, traditional, Netflix or anything like that. So just this little company that was started by a couple guys, and Rooster Teeth is a bigger company now, but they weren't. Has provided me as much, if not more, definitely more entertainment than these big people that have like hundreds and thousands of employees and tons of funding and tons of ad revenue and all this stuff, but yet I'm not watching them, and I mean, it's really threatening. I mean, I would be throwing left hooks left and right if I was traditional media in any shape or form, you know what I mean? Not just news or anything, or I don't know, just traditional content creators, whether it's news or entertainment or whatever it might be. I'd be pretty scared. Like Linus Tech Tips, it comes along and takes on people like PC Mag and these geek squad stuff, Wired and stuff, and it's just a guy or a couple guys up in Canada, but yet they have millions of subscribers and more loyal followers than the other ones will ever have. I don't know. It's pretty interesting to see, but I don't think it's the death of YouTube at all.
I don't think so either. Because YouTube does have that captive audience going for them. I know a lot of people do, like, a lot of YouTubers do make a lot of their revenue off of, like, Twitch and things like that, but they still post those videos to YouTube and basically make it back. Like, they make double.
I think right now, what it does do is Bertie Burns from Rooster Teeth and Linus Tech Tips have both said that it's very, very important to not have YouTube be you, or you be YouTube and YouTube be you. You don't want to be asynchronous with YouTube, You want to have your own site and your own place for people to go find your content, and your own Patreons and your own whatever it happens to be, whatever way you make money or whatever way people find your content. There should be a second avenue to that, and it should not be asynchronous with YouTube. And I think that is going to become very prevalent after this kind of demonetization scare, because I mean, these people with like 5 million subscribers, if they're getting big demonetization hits, they're just going to start their own site and take their users to a different site. What's stopping them from doing that? Nothing really, if they have a guaranteed 5 or so million, sure, they'll lose a couple million people, but then they don't have to split ad revenue. They don't have to do any of this stuff. They just have to, I don't know, especially someone like PewDiePie, I mean, there's a lot of rumors that PewDiePie is leaning towards creating his own content service and stuff like that, which, especially with all the swings that people have been taking at him lately, just that much more likely. But I don't know, it's interesting. One thing I have noticed, though, I have not seen a decline in HoloLens content. Have you?
Oh, definitely not. this actually ties really well into our next topic, which is Microsoft has been very stepping up their mixed reality involvement. So they just hired a new vice, like they just broke off the mixed reality marketing function from their normal marketing. They just broke off the mixed reality function from their marketing department and hired a new VP for it. So I think this is kind of signaling that Microsoft's looking to
gearing up. They're gearing up to make a push.
Yeah, I think this is the push we've been looking for in terms of when are they going to start bringing this into the mainstream. And everywhere I look now, I see mixed reality. Like Microsoft's doing this, Microsoft's doing that. So
we are part of the
it.
scene. So we are part of the scene. So we see it a lot, no matter what. But I mean, I have not seen it like I've seen it lately. I have not seen as many developers releasing new things. I have not seen as many people making videos. I have not seen as much startups and companies releasing HoloLens stuff, and I have not seen Microsoft releasing the kind of content they've been releasing. And I think. We kind of predicted this. I still don't think it's going to be full push yet. I think this is, like you said, just kind of gearing up for that push, kind of like testing the waters, before they jump full in. Because we kind of predicted this. If you go back and listen to our podcasts that I don't even know if we released them, but the podcast, some of our very first podcasts, we talked that MR and HoloLens has to play a very kind of like sit and wait Predator kind of game with this whole thing. They have to let VR have their day to shine. They have to let Samsung S8 or whatever it is. They have to let these technologies have their day to shine, and then kind of creep in and just seep up. Flood the place from the bottom up, and before everybody knows it, they're already neck deep, and it's the coolest thing ever, or whatever. I can't think of a better analogy right now. But go ahead, Paul.
Well, and the interesting thing is the lady they hired to become to head this mixed reality marketing team. She was the former chief marketing officer of Oculus VR at Facebook, so she has experience in these headset devices and marketing them and getting them out there. And now you see like Oculus Rift stuff, HTC Vive stuff everywhere. So she did a good job at what she was doing. So this was definitely a big step and a big move in my eyes in terms of we want to bring this into the mainstream now. We want people to know what we're doing out here. And she was a big hire for that. And I think breaking off this little marketing department from the major one, that will give them their own budget, and that'll allow them to spend a little more money on what they're doing. So I think it will be very interesting, and I'm excited to see what comes out in the next year now. We have, I think in May, there's going to be a Microsoft like press conference for around mixed reality stuff. So it will be very interesting to see what they come up with there. So I'm excited.
That'll be awesome. Ed, so you said it was the Oculus Rift, the lady charged of Oculus Rift stuff?
Yes, she was the chief marketing officer at of Oculus VR at Facebook. So that's
interesting. I think Oculus is the quintessential. It's such a hard thing because Oculus did so well for so long, and then right during release they choked. They choked hardcore, But they did a great job at playing the sit and wait game because, I mean, Oculus has been around for a long, long time, years and years. And then, but they kind of sat and wait and they played with their time. They knew people weren't ready for this. They knew it wasn't the time. They knew they didn't have any competition. They knew there was no need or whatever it might be. But they sat and they waited a long time. And even when Facebook took over, they were very secretive. They weren't super secretive. They still released dev kits, but at least with marketing, they were quiet and they kept their chill. But then they really choked hard when it came to actually releasing and pushing the product. I mean, I rarely see any Oculus Rifts. All I see is Vives and other stuff. But go ahead.
An interesting thing in an internal email that Microsoft let out about this hire, Yusuf, I forget his name, Yusuf Mehdi, He's the vice president of Windows and Devices Group.
Oh yeah, that guy's awesome.
Says that they're going to ramp up our sales efforts by investing in a dedicated set of sellers and TSPs for fiscal year 18, which is June of 2017. That's like the beginning of their fiscal year 2018. Combined with significant marketing investment we are making for this coming holiday with mixed reality headsets marketed on Windows 10 PCs by the Windows 10 marketing team, we are set up to have an acceleration of our mixed reality initiative. So there you have it right there. Like this is the beginning of the push, this hire, and so I think around then we'll start seeing more. I think we'll start seeing these $300 mixed reality headsets being marketed, and then the HoloLens kind of being not pushed to the side. But I don't think we'll see any targeted.
Just give people a taste. They just need to, like, it's kind of with the first iPhone, didn't have an app store, didn't have anything, just give people a taste, see how they react, and then you can really push, That's interesting, though, because our predictions, and a lot of people's predictions, were like 2020 is when we were going to start seeing mixed reality come in. And I mean, our predictions were a lot earlier. Me and you were talking like, we thought it was going to be happening more 2016, but we saw a little bit at the end of summer of 2016. HoloLens was making some pretty big pushes with stuff, but maybe that's just their time. Maybe that's just their time to push stuff is right around summertime. But yeah, I was thinking right around 2017 is when we're going to start seeing some major pushes for HoloLens gear or mixed reality and stuff like that. Do you think this will push Magic Leap to do anything, or you think they're still going to stay pretty secret?
I think they're going to stay a little secret. But this might be like the kick in the shorts that's like Microsoft's making moves, so you better get your ass out here, or you're going to be left behind, unless they've got something that's going to completely blow our minds, which at this point I'm not like doubting, but I'm apprehensive about what they have on their minds.
Yeah, like I wouldn't place bets on it, but it's definitely a possibility, for Magic League to come in and do it.
And another big thing that speaking of Microsoft again, just continuing along this MR conversation we've gotten into, in the next week, a new edition of Windows 10 Creators Edition is coming out. And inside of that, they're going to have a mixed reality portal. And what that is it's literally a mixed reality emulator that you can use on your PC. And it gives another opportunity for people to get a taste of what MR will be like. So I believe the only app they have for it right now is just the Holograms app, which we've shown on the HoloLens in our first impressions video. If you haven't seen it, that's a perfect way to see the Holograms app. And sometimes we use it just for testing purposes. It's a very good app.
What video was that again?
The first impressions video of the HoloLens.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen a lot more apps being released lately. I mean, I don't know if it's just like timing but I mean, I've seen so much more content come up, and even our stats. And I mean, I'm not saying like the past month. I'm talking like the past like 2 weeks. Like this is very recent happenings. I don't know if it's just a bump or what's happening, but I mean, I'm excited. I'm happy. I mean, we went and saw Ghost in the Shell. Have you seen that yet?
No, I haven't heard anything about it actually.
So, movie's pretty good. Worth seeing. It's a cool look at the future. I think I'd just say just for the look at the future. And I think if you want to see what like mixed reality future could look like, minus all the dystopian and like cyborg and weird stuff, just as far as holograms go, it's basically they took a page out of Magic Leap's marketing and put it in a movie. It's like look up a screenshot if you have a second, Paul. Look up like what was the movie called again? Ghost in the Shell City or something like that. And it's like these holograms like swimming around buildings and huge holograms marketing everywhere and stuff like that. I think it's pretty interesting. And this is the beginning to that, I guess, right? This slow consumer push to that is where it's heading.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't that look exactly like Magic Leap's marketing?
Yeah, exactly. Which obviously has all been just like computer generated and has no real bearing on what the device lets you do. But it's definitely very interesting to see what. That's cool. Yeah, that'd be a cool future. We'll see if anyone can actually produce stuff that high quality.
That'd be awesome, dude. That'd be so freaking awesome. And those are a little. I know those. Before people get mad at me, those are like actual holograms. They're not like mixed reality holograms, but still, I mean, it's all this relative in the same concept. But yes. What else? Do we have any other topics?
That's all I've got from Microsoft right now. What I thought was cool is this update with Windows 10 and using their holograms app inside of the MR portal. That video that I linked, and anyone can find it. It's called the Holograms app demo on Windows Mixed Reality. Microsoft released it, I believe, on the 1st. That, I think, will show you what these 300 devices are going to do for you. If you get one and want to start developing, that's the kind of environment you'll be using to develop your apps in. So it won't give you a view of your outside world, but it's going to create a virtual world. Like, it'll create a virtual copy of the room you're in, and then from there you can place holograms inside of it.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool.
Sorry, go ahead. I keep interrupting.
Oh, you're good. It's definitely a very cool concept to look at. In the video, I think it was just a really good first look at. So this is what $300 will get you in terms of, like, the program is already on your computer if you have the Windows 10 Creator Edition, which anyone can get, anyone can sign up for, anyone can download.
And there's a C#. If you're a developer, there's been an emulator inside of C# that you can download, a Unity emulator. It's pretty cool too. So, but it's cool to make it so accessible, just like download and play basically, instead of having to set up all this crap. But the 300 devices are really exciting. We'll probably, if we don't get one, we'll definitely get our hands on one. So that being the caveat, because I think that'll be a good way to. What do you think their sales will be on that? Do you think that's something people are going to be likely to pick up, or what do you think?
I think at this point, you're going to see a lot of small developers pick them up, like people who were first adopters into developing apps for like the iPhone or your Android devices. People who have good ideas like that and have already gotten their feet wet in that developing sphere of apps and things like that. So I think for right now, what we're going to see is people who want to develop like apps that are games really get in on it, and just the smaller developers, because that's a very affordable price point, especially since they'll be marketing it with Windows 10 PCs during the holiday season. So I think there will be some deals out there if anyone's interested who might want to just get into developing for the HoloLens and really want to learn. There's a bunch of good tutorials online about how to do it, and this is a very affordable price point to get the experience without having to use an emulator.
Yes, which is awesome. So, I mean, I look forward to when they come out and to seeing what they can do and everything like that. So, okay, I don't know if this will make it to the final podcast. We can probably cut this if it's not good or anything. But I wanted to talk to you about, so Eric, who works with us in developing apps and stuff like that, he had an idea to develop, and he hates mail. And I feel comfortable sharing this idea because you'll see why in a minute. He had an app where he hates mail, and he was like, I never want to receive mail away. I just want it to go to someone else, and then I get a virtual version of it on my phone or my computer, which is a good idea. Like, I hate mail. What about you? Is this something you would do? First off, just from that much of the idea, is this something you would do?
No, because of just privacy. In terms of, I do still get a lot of snail mail, like bank statements, things like that. I prefer to get them via snail mail rather than on my computer.
So how that works? If there's private stuff, they just send you a picture. So there's this company called Outbox that did this. You can look it up. Just Google Outbox startup is probably the easiest way to look at it. And they did this. And so what the company was is you would sign up for it, and you would redirect their mail, and legally people can open your mail if you give them express consent. And so basically, you would redirect your mail to their offices, and they would get the mail. They would get your mails, and they would take a picture of all your letters before they were opened, and you would, on each one, you would select send to me, open and save, and then shred, or blah 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 blah. You had a couple different actions. So if it was like private stuff, you could still get it sent to you. But for a majority of it, I mean, like 95% of most mail is probably just crap, and you wouldn't need it, so you would just shred it and stuff like that. And it's a pretty interesting idea. I mean, it's something I would totally do, especially because the situation that I live in, it would just be a lot easier to handle that. It would be easier, especially if you're living in like a dormitory or a big apartment complex or something like that. You know, that'd be a really good way to get your mail. And this company was started back in like 2013, 2014. So it sounded like a good idea. And they started it, and it happened. And it took off like fire. They started in Austin, and then they were like within a couple weeks, they were already ready to open another city, and they were growing. And the only thing that was slowing them down is they couldn't keep up with demand. That was how many people wanted it. And then they decided, you know, this would save the U.S. Postal Service, which we all know is a complete mess. This would save them so much money, and they would get so much if they worked with us and we worked together and we could do stuff, you know? Sounds like a good partnership and stuff. I'm going to see if I can find the quote. First off, tell me if this is something you would do, or what do you think about this idea in the first place?
I think with that caveat that like confidential stuff would just be, I could have it sent to me instead of them opening it. Yeah, I would definitely have it sent my way. It's something that I would be inclined to do. I'm not sure how much they could get me to pay for it, considering like
I think it was only like $5 a month. I think it was like $5 a month.
Okay, on a monthly basis, I really don't get much mail. So I guess for someone who might get a lot of mail, it could be a big time saver. Yeah, but generally, all of our parents, I think there's still a lot of the people signed up into those legacy systems where you're getting newsletters via mail instead of email, stuff like that. But for us, and like for me personally, I like when I go down to my mailbox in my apartment building, it's literally all junk, and most of it doesn't even have my name on it. It's past people who have lived here who never like ended their subscriptions. Like I get like a Runner magazine that someone's still paying for somewhere, but
that's hilarious. So so they decided to set up a meeting. The founders decided to start it. Well, no, they didn't set up a meeting. They were asked to have a meeting with the Postmaster General of the United States, which is pretty big deal, especially. So I'm just going to read this little excerpt from this article about how the company failed. It says, when Evan and Will got called in to meet with the Postmaster General, they were joined by the USPS General Counsel and Chief of Digital Strategy. But instead, Evan recounts that the U.S. Postmaster General Patrick Donahoe looked at us and said, "We have a misunderstanding. You disrupt my service and we will never work with you." Quote. Okay, so quote, "You disrupt my service and we will never work with you. Further, you mentioned making the service better for our customers, but the American citizens aren't our customers. About 400 junk mailers are our customers. Your service hurts our ability to serve those customers." So he flat out says that they're not there to serve the American people. They're there to serve the junk mailers. So basically, the only reason this exists is for junk mail. The only reason we even have snail mail is because of junk mail services. And the only reason we have, snail mail through the USPS. Snail mail on the platform that we have it now. I mean, I'm just going to read that again because that blew my mind when I read that. He says, "You mentioned making the service better for our customers, but the American citizens aren't our customers. About 400 junk mailers are our customers. Your service hurts our ability to serve those customers." Okay. According to Evan, the chief digital strategies comments were even more stark. Your market model will never work anyway. Digital is a fad. It will only work in Europe. He said that right there. The chief of digital strategy said, digital is a fad. It will only work in Europe. This is 2014. This isn't the 90s. This isn't the 80s. This is 2014 when this happened. The founder said this was the most surreal moments of their lives, was this encounter right here. Now, this is the freaking government. And I know we went hard on the government last week, but I mean, I don't want to get political because I don't know how political you can get with the USPS. But still, that is a joke, Paul. What do you think about that?
Oh my God, that's worse than Steve Munchin saying that he's not worried about automation taking jobs. Like, oh my God.
Digital is a fad. It will only work in Europe.
That's such a ridiculous statement.
I mean, holy cow! Could you imagine that you have a startup, you have a great idea, you're growing so much, and you figured out this way to save the government and people so much money and be so much more efficient, and they basically flat out say, "We'll kill your company," because if they decide to keep running the company, they're gonna die. The USPS is just gonna force them to quit, and not through a roundabout way, they'll figure a way out and they'll force them to quit or whatever, you know what I mean? But I mean, to say that, first of all, that it's like the government willingly knows they're just sending junk mail to people, and that's all it is. That's the only point of it existing. And then the freaking digital strategy chief of digital strategy said digital is his name. It says it in a name. His whole job is to make it digital. And he says digital is a fad. It will only work in Europe. I mean, amen. That's the end of the podcast. Thanks for joining. I'm just kidding, but still.
Wow. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Digital is a fad.
It will only work in Europe. Why the heck is it only going to work in Europe? Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know.
I could actually see something like this working less effectively in Europe because people there are more concerned about their privacy. I mean, they microwave their credit cards, for God's sake.
And people are in such close proximity there that, it doesn't really matter. Mailing isn't that big of a deal. Whereas here, it's like infrastructure is huge. I don't know. I mean, if you guys are interested, there's so many write-ups about how the USPS is like the worst run government agency and the worst run company in the world. And anyways, I mean, we'll probably end on that note. Anything else you want to finish off with, Paul?
Not really. Just remember that digital's a fad. And probably so is mixed reality.
Mixed reality is a fad. Okay, well, thank you for joining us on the Holo Herald podcast, episode 6, I think this is. And this was filmed live Monday night at about 8 o'clock. We started a little bit later, but it'll be about 7:30, 8 o'clock every Monday night. Thanks for joining. If you're listening to the edited version of this, leave your comments down below or come join us for the next podcast. This has been great. And tweet us at the Holo Herald if you have anything. We have an Instagram. I don't know how to get there. Probably put that in the comments or something like that. But yeah, watch our content. We have some really good videos coming out. So go ahead and check those out. And yes, thanks for joining us. This has been the Holo Herald podcast.